Hi, everyone. I hope you guys are doing well. Let me just make sure that this audio over here is not going to mess with me. All right, there we go. Turning that off because I guess we have to have an ad for Fast and the Furious Spy Racers, right? All right. All right. So now I can see my chat here and I can see it live here. Okay. Wow. So this has been a weird day. Uh, I have seen things in my lifetime that are both awe-inspiring and fascinating, but never in my pop culture existence did I think I would see a sky striker run right over a rancor, just boom. And I've been watching all these different YouTube channels today. Like I've been watching. Hey, Zantara, good to see you. Yeah, I didn't plan this one. There was just too much going on. What I'm about to tell you is why I'm doing this stream tonight. I've been watching so much YouTube today while I was working on the next video for the channel. I'm working on a review, coincidentally, of move this microphone closer. Coincidentally, I've been making a video about Marvel Legends. And in the background, while I've been shooting B-roll and doing stuff about this particular Marvel Legends figure set, I've been listening to all of these YouTube channels that are in my recommended feed talking about this Rancor. And, we all were watching last night. We all saw that the Rancor didn't make it. And it's like, yeah, they got spanked several weeks ago or a week ago, whenever it was, week and a half ago. That's true, Jason Anderson. That's true. Working on the channel is code for photoshopping Raiders fedoras on later movie indies. I won't back down from that. That's also true. But sometimes you got to take a break from what you're doing. Your eyes, your retinas start to atrophy a little bit. And you're like, I got to get away from the timeline and do this thing. But anyway, I couldn't believe how many YouTube channels were talking about this. And YouTube was recommending YouTube channels to me I'd never heard of before. And I was watching everything that was coming down the pipe about this Rancor. I was like, wow, like so many people seem to have really gotten wrapped up in this particular Haslab faceplant. Like it was, I was actually, and the odd part was, I think this is why I wanted to do a stream tonight that I normally wouldn't have done. I actually was surprised that most of the videos were actually reasonable. Like most of them were putting their ire where the ire was deserved. In other words, they weren't blaming the other collectors for not pledging. They weren't blaming the people who backed out. Most of these videos were putting the onus of responsibility on Hasbro, which I think is very admirable of the Star Wars collecting community, because as we all know, the Star Wars collecting community is not always a rational beast. Brian Dillingham, thank you for the super chat. Thank you for the Dillinghamism, sir. But yeah, so I felt like it was a real turning point in the tone of the discussion. I feel like the tone of the collector discussion has finally turned a little bit, where a measurable pie slice of the people collecting Star Wars are actually starting to talk rationally and objectively about the parent companies for these licenses. I thought that was a very telling sign. Didn't expect that. Really didn't expect it at all. I've seen a little bit of sniping and snipping back and forth, but not much. And Troy, thank you for the super chat. He says, it was fun to watch the countdown last night. I even did a vid about it, gave you a shout out. Not that you needed it for my little nuttin' channel. Troy, there's no such thing as a little nuttin' channel if it has passion, and thank you so much. I appreciate that. I will go check that out. And I wanted to point out one comment here. Rex on 31, what's your view on the Ghostbusters Proton Pack? Like I've said before, it's too bad that they didn't put the wand and the hose all together with that package. I think that's Hasbro's Haslab model, once again, being a little tone deaf to the consumer. I know they have a wand, but they can't even guarantee that they're going to have it in stock if you get the pack. And the hose is a stretch goal, like Bones and a background were for the Rancor. It's like, wow, guys, like you're really parting this out. I'm surprised the waist, belt, and frame aren't a stretch goal, really. What good is getting a pack if it's just the pack and there's nothing to pull and nothing connects it together? And I'm not a fan of Haslab, period. Yeah, the pack will be great if you can get the wand and the hose. But yeah, so I was Robert, thank you for the super chat. He says, keep the Sky Striker good. Will going. We can get all the tiers, Michael, sir. Well, that's the other thing, too, is that Don Miles, Toy Collector community not telling Hasbro, tell me, do you bleed? I got to be frank, and I'll always be frank with you about this kind of stuff. I think what some of the people on YouTube today have been saying is pretty accurate, which is that the Sky Striker is getting a huge boost from a lot of speculators who didn't win out on the Rancor. In other words, there was a lot of pledging on spec to flip. You know, a lot of people like to flip Haslab projects. That's why they say limit so many per customer. The Sky Striker was flagging there, no pun intended. The Sky Striker was flagging there for quite a few days, hanging at around 7,000 out of the 10,000 that it needed. And then I think when, and I'm not the originator of this take, but I think there's a lot of common sense behind it. Some YouTubers have been pointing out that a lot of the people who were there to speculate on the Rancor to flip it by buying multiples, when it didn't happen, they pulled, their money, obviously, because Hasbro wasn't going to take it anyway. And they turned around and they threw it right at the Sky Striker. Sky Striker was ending 24 hours later. So suddenly the Sky Striker gets this big infusion of interest right there at the last minute. I know it's got a few hours left. I don't know if it's gotten past 11,000 yet, but it's on its way to its first tier unlock, which is Scarlet, I think. Scarlet's head on a blue ace body. Let's point that out. But yeah, it's the Sky Striker is still overpriced and should never have been a Haslab, ever. That should have been a retail item for the G.I. Joe collection, but they didn't do that. So let's see here. Salvador from 2 Cents Toys. Thank you for the super chat. He says, my principles and a pebble won out eventually, so here's some of that delicious former Rancor money for retro plastic instead. You didn't have to do that, sir, but that's very kind of you. That is something I want to point out. Grindhead, I can't be anything but Frank because my last name is French. So, and yes, Bjorn, you can be Garth. Snell World, thank you for the super chat. He says, I was in a Navy squadron at NAS Oceana and glad they work with Northrop Grumman to give people memory. Yeah, I mean, like I said, I think the Sky Striker is a beautiful piece. I just don't think it should have been a Haslab. I think the price point would have come down a lot if they had made it mass retail. And I don't see any scenario in which that vehicle couldn't have been sold at retail and wouldn't have sold. Like, I think that was supremely done. Thank you, Kenny. I appreciate that. We are well. Thank you, sir. But yeah, like Ronin Blade is pointing it out very nicely. He says the Rancor should have been $200 to $250. He's not wrong. And I think at that price, you could argue maybe that only the creature for that price. But I would say, for $250, I think it should have been the Rancor and the Keeper. And then if they want to throw stretch goals at you, go for it. I mean, obviously, it wouldn't have stung as much to have a re-release Gamorrean Guard on a different card back if it had been a stretch goal after the initial package that you were being offered was already really nice and, you know, really enticing. But they didn't do that. And then they made it $350, which was like just but yeah. Oh, Henry Thompson, thank you, sir. That's very kind. Very kind for the super sticker. Thank you, sir. Much appreciated. Matt, thank you. He says, do you think Hasbro will cool it with crowdfunding? Interesting thing to point out, Matt, because some of these YouTube channels that, again, I'd never heard of before, I probably watched 8 to 10 videos today about it. And like I said, out of those 8 to 10 videos that I watched, there were only like one, maybe one was lukewarm on the blame, and then maybe one was like really hard in on the collectors. But the rest of them were all just talking about Hasbro and how Hasbro really messed this up from inception to, you know, it wasn't really execution, was it? It was failure. But the whole idea of cooling it with crowdfunding was something they were bringing up on these other channels. You know, they were saying this has one channel, I believe it was Thor Skywalker, I think, said that he was of the opinion that this might actually cool his jets toward Haslab crowdfunding, specifically Haslab. He was saying that his enthusiasm for Haslab, you know, could actually be harmed by this turn of events because it's clear that Hasbro is not putting their effort into the tiers and is not, you know, giving collectors and buyers their money's worth when it comes to this. You know, all 3 figure unlocks were just re-release layups until they tried to bring everybody back. Oh, we got a Rancor Keeper. We've got a Rancor Keeper. And it's like, well, both with the Sky Striker and the Rancor, we really need to take a step back and think about this for a minute, because if they're coming forward and they're saying, hey, $350 for a Rancor crowdfunded, and that's going to be it until you unlock the Bones and the Gamorrean Guard and the Salacious Crumb and the Luke and the, you know, backdrop and whatever. And then they suddenly throw in a Rancor for nothing, or a Rancor Keeper for nothing. Well, that means that they could have always thrown in a Rancor Keeper and been just fine. So they are operating at a massive markup for the Haslab Rancor. Like, in other words, they were bilking their customers, full on bilking. Okay. Now let's look at the Sky Striker. Yes, it's been funded, right? Officially, but it hasn't broken any unlocks, but it's been funded, right? But it started out with the Sky Striker, the stand, the various missiles, the 2 parachutes, and the 2 figures, right? Well, it wasn't doing well, and it was kind of anemic growing toward the pledge goal. So what they do, suddenly out of nowhere, without the necessity for a tier, much like the Rancor Keeper, they throw out 3 Cobra figures and a whole new set of decals. And they're like, you're going to get these 3 O-ring Cobra figures right out of the gate for no tier whatsoever. Like, now they're part of the default package with the 2 figures we already gave you. So now that's 5 figures plus 2 decal sets on top of all the missiles and parachutes and flight stand and everything. And you sit back and you go, well, they could have done that the whole time for $230. Clearly, that was a safe move on some level. So once again, Hasbro is bilking their customers. I mean, look at the price comparison of just the Rancor monster from Black Series to Masters of the Universe Origins Castle Grayskull. That's $79.99, I believe. I think it's $79.99 at retail officially. That's a full playset with a figure and accessories and everything, and it opens up, and it's, you know, it's Castle Grayskull reimagined. At mass retail, $79.99. A Rancor monster in 6-inch scale, $350. At some point, the fans had to have woken up and been like, okay, you know what? I think the straw has broken the camel's back on our chumminess with Hasbro. I think we can put a fork in this and say we're kind of getting kicked around. it's hard. It's Rogue Planet. What would make a good Haslab is for there not to be a Haslab. Is for Hasbro to refocus their efforts on getting back into retail and making things at volumes that allows for per unit reasonable pricing. Let me catch up here. I think I've missed a few. No, I haven't missed any chats yet. All right. Joshua, thank you. He says, I love the custom Cloud City playset. Any updates? There's an update video coming soon, sir. I'm waiting on some parts to show up from Joseph, the artisan, but there will be an update soon, and it will be titled Cloud City Working the Prototype. So just watch for that. C. Kruger, thank you for the super chat. He said, thoughts on the $900 transforming Optimus Prime robot. Is that the one that self-transforms? I mean, it's a nice gimmick if that's the one you're talking about. I don't really have any interest in it because I don't like burning through batteries like that. But for Transformers collectors, I'm sure it's a dream come true. I mean, it doesn't do very much, except it does a lot and yet not a lot, because all you can really do is punch the button, watch it transform, and watch it not transform. Unless you're talking about a totally different one, in which case I apologize, because there's so many different Optimus Primes coming out right now. Kal-El says, if it was the creature only, it should have included the cardboard background and the bones. Agreed. The fact that those were unlocked was simply ridiculous. Agreed. Yes. And Mecha Manblade, thank you for saying this. Hasbro forgets their own reason for Haslab, bringing projects that wouldn't be done any other way. Both Rancor and Sky Striker could sell at retail. Give us an ATST. Give us a G.I. Joe cargo plane. Yeah, you know, like the example I always love to use is Hasbro has all of these orphaned franchises, these orphaned licenses and trademarks from all the companies they've absorbed. And so I go back to the whole thing of, if Haslab's intention was to greenlight projects that otherwise wouldn't get made at retail, give us something really cool and retro like the Shark from Mask with Gloria Baker that never got made back in the day. You know, if it was because of licensing from Porsche or something like that, then guess what? Bring us in and use that incentive to say, we've got to get this at a certain price point in order to get the license from Porsche to do this, and then get the, so that right there is a prime target for the type of project I would have thought Haslab would have done, but that's not what they focused on. Paul, when you say they, I wonder if Hasbro will learn their lesson if the collectors have learned their lesson. So if the collectors turn around next week and stop buying into this stuff, then Hasbro will learn their lesson, and they'll be more careful, and they'll pay more consideration to these projects that they're asking people to fund. But given how they just ran right over and started buying up as many Sky Strikers as they could, I don't know yet if they've learned the lesson. Maybe we'll find out that a lot of those people were speculators, and maybe the Star Wars collectors have learned their lesson with Hasbro. It's hard to say. And, you know, that's the other thing about that Sky Striker. The retro collection for G.I. Joe on shelves right now is based around sort of 25th anniversary style action figures, the ones that were at Toys R Us right there at the end before Toys R Us shut its doors. The vehicles are retools or retoolings of the vintage ones, but the bulk of Hasbro's focus on G.I. Joe has been the 6-inch classifieds line. So why on earth are they deciding to do a Sky Striker that's going to come with O-ring figures that aren't the retro slash 25th anniversary figures, and it also isn't a classifieds product? You know, there were people online saying that they don't understand why the G.I. Joe Haslab wasn't like a 6-inch scale vamp, and then the unlocks would be things like the towable MMS or something like that. It's a good point. I don't understand their head here. It's like they're splitting everything 3 ways from Sunday. It's like, well, in stores, we're going to give them retro this, and we're going to give them classifieds this, but on Haslab, we're going to give them O-ring with a reimagined Sky Striker, and it's just like it really doesn't make any sense. Wolfie, thank you for the super chat. He says, Sky Striker hits a Rancor. Is this situation going to be like in the Western U.S. states where the driver of the Sky Striker is now responsible for several generations of Rancor? Thanks for the surprise stream. You're welcome, Wolfie. In a way, this is kind of a weird turn of events. I wonder if right now Hasbro is regretting the pattern, the sequence that they put these into. You know, if they had the Sky Striker end last night, and then the Rancor end today, and the Sky Striker, G.I. Joe is not as popular as Star Wars. Can we all agree on that? Like, I don't think we need hard facts to agree that Star Wars is more popular than G.I. Joe. All right. I think that's a safe guesstimate to make. All right. They needed 10,000 Sky Strikers minimum pledges, 10,000 pledges minimum. They needed 9,000 for the Rancor. Now, I'm sure that's based on a dollar amount. So I'm sure because the Rancor was $350 and the Sky Striker was $230, there's some math in there that works out. But it also makes sense from another perspective in that they're not going to sell G.I. Joe unless they sell a lot more of these things. Although it is odd because G.I. Joe, again, not as popular as Star Wars. Would the Sky Striker have been successful if the Rancor hadn't failed? Because right now it's very clear that the Sky Striker has gotten a huge infusion of interest from people who weren't able to get the Rancor. And let's also keep in mind the Proton Pack, the Rancor, and the Sky Striker were all going at the same time, causing great strain on people's wallets. So if they had flipped the dates and the Sky Striker hadn't sold, then suddenly the Rancor would have had 24 more hours, which a lot of people were saying, if we'd only just had a few more hours, it would have sold. And it's like, well, if you'd gotten a bunch of those speculators to then run over and throw their money into the Rancor, now there's very likely the possibility that it's a lot of very hungry, devoted G.I. Joe collectors who are just putting that money cash on the barrelhead to make sure that this doesn't, fail because it's the first G.I. Joe big ticket item that's come out of Haslab. It's impossible to know. And because they're not numbering each one of these items, we'll never really know how many actually get made. Sam, thank you for the super chat. Very kind, sir. And Analog Toys, thank you for the super chat. I am Spartacus. I saw your video today, sir. I saw it this morning. Watched it after I woke up. Had a nice morning, just kind of watching your video, sitting in bed, kind of letting myself wake up and relaxing while I woke up. If only I'd had some breakfast to go with it, it would have been perfect. I haven't seen Adam Savage's review, the Proton Pack, David. I mean, he's got to pay the bills too, right? So I'm sure he got a nice little kickback from Hasbro on that. Let's see. Joseph, thank you for the kind super chat. He says, I noticed this earlier. Mattel T-Rex, a smaller 20-inch one for $60, a giant 40-inch one for $180. No way that Rancor should sell at that price. And I'm almost done printing the rest of Bespin World. So cool. Yeah, I'm very, very excited, man. I cannot tell you how excited I am to see the rest of your work on Bespin World. It's going to be awesome. It's going to be awesome. Master Son, hey, good to see you, sir. Yes, and Joseph, you can have 6 to 7 figures of Mythic Legion for the Rancor price. Yeah, the price of this Rancor was ridiculous. It was ridiculous. Chris Smith, thank you very much, sir. He says, hey, Michael, stand solo here. Wow, thank you. Very kind, sir. He says, I don't even know much about Haslab and how it works, but why do they need crowdfunding? And yes, at 350 pounds on a Rancor, I know my Bantha is smaller, but I've managed that at 110 pounds shipped. Exactly, my friend. Exactly. Like, I don't understand why an $11 billion company needs us to insulate them from the financial risk of high-profile licensed products. Marvel, Star Wars, Transformers. You could very thinly, it's thin rigs, but you could very thinly argue that G.I. Joe might need a leg up. But after today with the Sky Striker, no, I don't think so. They don't need this kind of help. an $11 billion company has earned itself the place of their venture, their risk. And I get it that it's by the letter of the law legal for them to game these small business crowdfunding models that have sprung up thanks to the internet. But is it ethical? And again, corporations aren't ethical at all. They're horrible monsters. But still, just because they're doing something bad and a lot of companies do something bad, this Haslab Rancor proves that we as the consumer can cut them off at the knees. They still need us, no matter what they game, no matter what they manipulate, no matter what laws they lobby for, no matter what regulations they circumvent. At the end of the day, they still need us to buy their crap. And if we don't buy it in large enough numbers in response to whatever they're offering, it can crumble. You can change the game. You can change this game. You know, I had somebody today, they were a week ago when I did, or I guess it was about a week ago when I did, yeah, it was a week ago when I did the video just kind of reacting to everybody bailing on the Rancor. They heard the last tears and they were bailing on it. It was like 300 people, you know, bailed out of it or whatever. And so I woke up and found out that it happened. And I was like, oh, wow. Like this is a moment here. Like this is a real moment. So I went and did a video just kind of saying, hey guys, you guys have really created a moment here. You've put Hasbro on the ropes. And at the time there were like 2 or 3 people who were like, Michael, you don't have, the influence to, make the Rancor fail. And I'm like, were you listening to a word I said? I wasn't wanting the Rancor to fail. And I certainly weren't wanting people who invested in this thing to not get what they were going for. They were the ones that said they were dissatisfied. They were the ones in large numbers that said, this is garbage. They were the ones saying, we are dissatisfied. They pulled out of that thing before I ever did a video. That's why I did the video, because a large number of people left. So they were acting like I was trying to, muscle my way in. And they were saying, your voice isn't as big as you think it is. And I'm like, I wasn't trying to leverage anything. I'm just a guy in the toy aisle. I'm just contributing to the conversation like everybody else. I don't have an agenda. Besides, if I got no agency, as you say I don't, then what agenda could I feasibly have that would be effective? None. Well, today, some of those same, douchebags came back around trying to blame me for the Rancor failing, which we all know is not the case at all. We saw the mass exodus and the consumer backlash from the Rancor last week. This has nothing to do with me or you. It has to do with mass dissatisfaction with a corporation's offer. It has to do with people realizing they're being abused. It's that simple. And so back to your point, Chris, there's no reason an $11 billion company should even be doing a Haslab model at all. Thank you for the super sticker, Rexon. Much appreciated. Connor Fuller, thank you for the super chat. He says, no doubt in my mind that unlocks were factored into the full price. Collectors were wised up to the value this time, and the tier options were poor. Retail release it now at a reasonable price. I really hope that this, makes people think and start to lose, like they were saying on those YouTube channels, get wiser about these Haslabs and how unnecessary they are. And I bet you money that the reason they didn't extend the deadline on this Haslab project like they did for Unicron is because the more of these they just keep extending when they don't reach their goal in the allotted time frame, the less and less justification there is for even having a Haslab anything. I've always said most of these are slam dunks. The closest ones so far that aren't slam dunks that would have been retail risks were the $400 or $200 or $300 Cookie Monster, and then this new Star Saber Transformer, which is kind of esoteric. Like those are the only two so far that come close to being something where you go, well, I don't know. All the other items could have been online, high dollar exclusives, kind of like the way Hot Toys does it. That proton pack didn't need to be Haslab. That thing could have sold easy with a wand and a hose and everything. That thing could have sold easy online on Big Bad and Entertainment Earth and all those places. It would have sold like that. DJ Convoy, thank you for the super chat. He says, I'm stunned the Sky Striker funded. Even with the extra figs, it was a terrible value proposition. It was, and that's why I found it very interesting when those channels all said they thought that the speculators from the Rancor just bounced their money over to it in the last few hours. Because, I mean, it jumped up by 3,000 or 4,000 people in the last hour. It was crazy. I guess this is really, we're coming up on the last hours, but within, I think it was like within 2 hours today, they had gotten like 2,000 to 3,000 more people. And a lot of people were saying that's people who put their money from the Rancor into the Sky Striker. Keith, whoa, it jumped. No, don't do that. Please let me go back. Please let me go back. Hold on, guys. Hold on. There we go. Thank God. Keith Knight, thank you so much. He says, no, I'm Spartacus, and so is my wife. Dang right. Anthony Whitehead, thank you for the super chat. He says, for always being real. Bravo. Thank you, sir. And thank you for always being real, too. Michael, would you like my Sky Striker? I don't collect O-Ring, only modern now, so I have 0 reasons to keep this. No, sir. I appreciate that, but you guys might have remembered when someone offered me a sail barge. I didn't want to keep that. I flew to Australia. So, no, sir, you keep your Sky Striker, enjoy it, and go with God. But I appreciate the offer very much. It's very kind of you. Let's see. Daniel, thank you for the super chat. He says, to my knowledge, there's only one commercial that I can find on the LJ and Voltron line. Believe it or not, they even made a Voltron slot car set. That is correct. That is correct. Kal-El, you'll catch the rest on replay. Thank you for being here, sir, and I'll see you later. And you are very welcome. They're releasing an O-ring line on Hasbro Pulse. That won't confuse everything even further. Why do we need 4 different scales for every line at Hasbro? Hasbro always creates like 4 different scales, and it's like, if you guys weren't splitting the difference on all this and put all that budget volume into other supplemental things for one scale, you might actually have a successful figure line for once. But I know they're successful, but it's just one 6-inch figure after another. I talk about this in my upcoming video about Marvel Legends, which you will see. Patrons will see it on Wednesday, and the rest of you will see it on Thursday. Let's see. I want to make sure that I catch up because last time I got real behind. Peter Venkman, thank you for the super chat. He says, I'm a DVD holdout with over 100, but I think it's finally time to replace with HD. What would you do in my shoes, Blu-ray or digital purchase? I'm a Blu-ray guy. I like being able to own the discs just in case. If you're getting sick of clutter and you haven't started down the Blu-ray path, maybe digital purchase is worth it for you. It's not for me. I like having a library. Laser Pants, the man behind the 3POA podcast. Thank you for being here. He says, or live stream, sorry, 3POA live stream. He says, so Hasbro needs to crowdfund a $350 Rancor, but they can make a $700 Optimus Prime a Pulse exclusive. They've exposed themselves. Haslab is a scam. That's what I've been saying. I've been saying that all of these high dollar items, whether it was the redone Fortress Maximus or the redone Metroplex or even the $400 re-release of the Legacy Millennium Falcon at Target with the Galaxy's Edge box, all of those things sold out. And even though some people are like, well, it wasn't in a store. And it's like, it was on a store's website. It was on targets.com, which still makes it a retail exclusive. All right. They sold out no problem. So all this BS about shelf space and this and that, we have all these options now. Target can make it an online exclusive. Walmart would happily have online exclusives like that. Amazon would have online exclusives like that, like the Slave One and all that stuff. There is no reason for a Haslab. None. That is right, Bile. The fans. We are Spartacus. That is right. You are very welcome, Skyfall, and thank you for the kind super chat. Blake, thank you for the super chat. He says, is Hasbro continuing the retro Kenner line? Yes, there's going to be a second wave of Mandalorian figures coming out soon. They're all different versions of Mandalorians. They all look the same. I mean, They are all different Mandalorians, but at a glance, they all look the same. It's not as interesting a wave. Let's see. James, thank you for the super chat. He says, Joe fans are desperate to save O-Ring, but the G.I. Joe team at least made a presentation that seemed like they cared, even though they don't. That's very true. I'm just simply confused as to why they couldn't have included those other 3 O-Ring figures in the Sky Striker package right from the get-go. I don't get that, because clearly the project can absorb it because they were able to do it as a Hail Mary play. Now, they might be losing some money on that to try and make this successful. I don't know. But it seems to me like three O-Ring figures and a decal sheet was going way. I mean, again, I'm not going to sit there and criticize Hasbro for giving the pledgers more. I think that's great that they did. What's suspect is why it wasn't there from the get-go. Why the price was this and all that stuff wasn't there, but they can throw it in at the last minute and the price is still right here. It's weird. Let's see. Catching up here. Peter Venkman, thank you. He said, if you had a chance to visit Pearl Harbor. I have never visited Pearl Harbor. I guess I kind of flew over it when I went to Australia that one time. But I haven't been there, no. Oh, Scuba. Oh, you're saying hi to somebody. Sorry, I saw the name Mike. But happy birthday. Jim Largo, thank you for the super chat. He says, I'm hoping the release of the Valaverse Action Force causes Hasbro to up their game with G.I. Joe Classified. Cheers, Michael. Yeah, I'm hoping the release of Valaverse Action Force causes Hasbro to up their game as well. I would like to just sort of, put this in your heads right now, too. It's really important. It's really important to remember that the only thing that's really going to make Hasbro do better is competition. It's what drives all the best products in business history is competition. The moment there's a monopoly, quality always goes down while prices go up to a ridiculous degree. So with Valaverse, you guys need to keep in your heads right now, and I'm not saying this with any foreboding sense of anything. I'm saying this because I want you guys to remember. Valaverse is one of the best shots that we've got right now at truly getting a competitor that can rise to the level of Hasbro and Mattel at some point in its future. But right now, it's Genesis. Right now, anybody like myself or Tony who's in on that wave one, we're ground floor. So if you're ground floor on Action Force, which right now is a very independent company that's got big goals and they're doing some amazing stuff and they're trying to push the sculpting and what you get in a 6-inch action figure forward, they're really trying to push that forward. Remember that they're not an $11 billion company. Remember that they need your faith right now. They need your good vibes. They are delivering on their promises. They are keeping us updated. They are showing us all the hoops they're going through to get the figures delivered. All right. They are working their tail off in the middle of a global lockdown for over 2 years, pretty much, especially a logistics delay because of all this craziness. So support them with your what's the word I'm looking for? With your good vibes. Support them with your common sense. Support them with what you say online. Like, okay, there's been some delays in the shipping of everything. But guess what? They're showing you the updates. They're sending photos of the shipping crates. They're going to get it here. And when they do, it's going to be it's going to be wave one. It's going to be Genesis. And I want you guys to keep it all in perspective that Action Force could change the game. It really could. But the only way it's going to change the game is with us putting our faith into it, because Bobby is an honest guy and he's a former Hasbro designer and he's an experienced professional toy designer. So just remember that, just because it's one of our best shots. It really is. Just try and keep in mind, they're not Hasbro yet. So don't react and treat them like Hasbro yet. They're doing amazing work, but just, again, keep it in perspective and hold on to what they represent for us, okay? Seriously. Sonny Frisch, thank you for the super chat. He says Haslab are creating a lot of Spartacuses by default due to excluding international backers. Yeah, I know a little bit about that. Yeah. They are hamstringing themselves by keeping it US only. Totally agree. One of the major reasons, besides the philosophical part of it, that I will never buy into a Haslab product, and I don't want any of them. Hello, Dean, sir. All things 80s. It's good to see you. Well, I am into arcade 80s nostalgia a little bit. I mean, I did do that whole video about their Star Wars cabinet, which you can go look. Star Wars Follies, the original arcade games. But I will tell you, I'm really not happy about their price tag on that X-Men cabinet. Really not happy, so I didn't buy it. Slice of Anime, thank you for the super chat. He says, the Rancor could have easily been a store exclusive. I agree. It had no charm as something we would never get otherwise. Love the content. That is correct. Not the love the content. Thank you for saying you love the content, but I was looking at your last part. It had no charm as something we would never get otherwise. That's right. That's right. They've sold every Sky Striker and every Rancor up until this point at retail, and they've all sold fine. There's no reason to do these as crowdfunded exclusives. None at all. KJ, thank you for the super chat. He says, help me. If the Sky Striker reaches the Scarlet tier, I might actually give it and fund this thing. Good extras do make a difference. Look, man, I'm not here to dog on the people pledging for this thing, all right? I'm here to look very hard at the company. And the company is actually using language in the Sky Striker promotional material trying to increase the anxiety of fear of missing out, also known as FOMO. They are actually using language to try and accelerate and make more acute your feelings of FOMO, which is a dirty move. It really is. But if you want this thing and now it's already funded or whatever, then, you know, you got to do what you got to do. I got to do what I got to do. Yeah, Mega J, I've actually been watching some of your videos about this stuff, and it could be a matter of them flexing. But I think it's also a big mistake to flex after, you know, because things like this were going to happen with Haslab. I always said things like this were going to happen, like this Rancor thing and the Cookie Monster thing and the Sentinel knees and the Unicron problems. I mean, I've been saying that this puts the consumer in a very dangerous position while Hasbro collects interest on the money for over a year. Now with this Rancor, it was going to be into 2023. And it's like, so I don't think it's very smart of Haslab to be flexing right now. Like, oh, look, we can sell the wand here. We can sell the pack here. And you might get the hose if you get enough of your friends to pledge. It's dirty, man. It's predatory. It's not necessary. With all the Ghostbusters hype out there right now over Afterlife, these things can be sold right now as online exclusives or Target online exclusives or Walmart online or Amazon as a complete package. Wand, hose, everything. It's not necessary. Let's see. I want to make sure I didn't miss anything here. Musk, thank you for the super chat. He says, hopefully people stop buying into Super 7's ridiculous prices. $500 on a TMNT van? Yeah, right. Brian F. will have to drop prices if we stand firm. Go fans. Yeah, he will. Yes, he will. Same thing with that $450 Thunder tank. Thank you, Smuggler's Canyon. Glad you caught one live. And thank you for the kind words. Let's see. Why do you think they never made an Idol Temple playset for Raiders of the Lost Ark? It seemed like such a no-brainer. Well, the Idol Temple playset in the vintage line was going to be a micro collection playset, like the Star Wars Empire Strikes Back stuff. They made sort of little mini playsets that hooked together for the 2008 line, which I'll be talking about more in my upcoming Indiana Jones video. Yeah, see, I saw that Galaxy's Edge Falcon in stores. You're not the first person to tell me that. And the more people that tell me that, it just proves our point, right? So yes, everybody who saw those, shout it out, because Michael Hinkson, good afternoon, Mike. I love these surprise live streams. You're welcome. I'd love to stay, but I've got to get some sleep before I go to work tonight. You were right. Oh, well, Michael, that's very kind. I'm just glad that the buyers and the collectors stood up for themselves this time. They get all the credit for that. I'm just kind of here watching and kind of giving my 2 cents sometimes. I'm very, I'm very proud of the Star Wars collector groups right now for finally standing up for themselves. Master Son, wow, thank you so much for the super chat. I don't always agree with Michael, but I always respect what he has to say. I see what you did there. I think if Michael had the power to influence 5,000 people, we would be seeing the return of Firefly, British World War II movies, and a new Star Wars series based off the 80s books. Well, it would be the early 90s books, but you're probably right. Yes, there would be a new Star Wars trilogy for sure. Return of Firefly, I wish that had happened back in 2005. I don't know if I think I've lost the want for Firefly to come back at this point because there was so much PR shenanigan going on around that just to keep a carrot on a stick for fans where they had no intention of following through. And I blame Whedon and some of the actors for that. British World War II movies, absolutely. Darkest Hour and Dunkirk were so good. I want to see a Battle of Britain movie, like an updated Battle of Britain movie. Nothing's wrong with the 1971. I like that one a lot. But with the way that they can do airplanes and effects and stuff now, I do want to see a companion movie, Battle of Britain. I'd love to see another Dam Busters movie, too. As much as the original was great, I'd love to see a redone Dam Busters. And thank you so much for the kind super chat, Master Son. Really appreciate it. Rexon, thank you for the kind super chat. He says, totally. It's hard enough as a collector trying to get Advent exclusives, too. I live in the UK and I'm at the mercy of scalpers because I can't get the things I want at retail. It's epidemic right now with toys, my friend. It is epidemic right now. The distribution was already bad before there was this COVID thing. But now it's out of control and they now lean on that as if that's the reason all along. And it's like, no, these distribution problems have been getting worse and worse steadily since around 2011. For those of us who've been in this game long enough, we know, all right? They're not getting away with anything. They think they are, though, because they've got all these hardline supporters that'll just let them. Let's see. I want to make sure I stay up to date because last time I got way behind. Toy Guy Chad, thank you for the super chat. He says, I've always supported Bobby. He's a stand-up guy. Definitely excited for Action Force. Competition is healthy. Can I get some Shipwreck, Michael? Yeah, absolutely, Toy Guy Chad. I mean, Action Force. It's just going to be amazing. I don't need no Sky Striker to know that I'm going to be flying high with Action Force. And let's get ready for some action. I got a catch in my throat there at the end, but I hope that did you. Let's see. Daniel Dorian, thank you for the super chat. If anyone asks you whatever happened to such great toy companies like Kenner, Galoob, or Milton Bradley, just say Hasbro. That's what happened. Yeah, that is exactly what happened, Daniel. David Whitehead, thank you for the super chat. He says, can we start a GoFundMe to bribe Michael to never use the phrase FOMO on the channel again? Dude, I don't like it any more than you do. I don't like it any more than you do, my friend. It's like the word spoiler. There's some more Shipwreck. I don't like the word spoiler, and I really don't like the word FOMO. I hate all that crap. But it's the language that's being spoken right now out there. And so when you have to communicate out your points to people who are in that space, sometimes you have to suffer for your art and say that stuff, which is, ugh. But it does make me throw up in my mouth a little bit. Let's see. Eric, Michael, if TRU does well this year in New Jersey and they're able to open new stores in Macy's, do you think it may relieve some of the issues? Right now, that TRU thing is a gimmick. I don't know how much effect that's really going to have on the retail situation. Yeah, I'm not sure. They screwed themselves with those venture capitalists or whatever, those hedge funders or whatever they were. They screwed themselves by shutting down Toys R Us. That was a supremely stupid move. And now they're like, oh, we got to bring it back. And it's like, once it's done, it's done. You guys, it's hard to restart that train when you've stopped it. What a mess. Vintage Weeb 82, thank you for the super chat. He says, looks like Ula finally got her revenge. Yes, she did, sir. She did. Let's see. I've heard about this Chitara debacle where it's a Wave 2 figure that keeps getting delayed or something like that, Van Dan. It's embarrassing, but I mean, I follow Lio Convoy reviews about it. It's almost laughable at this point how Wave 2 just keeps getting screwed up, and then the Chitara action figure just can't seem to land on its feet. No pun intended. It's bad. It's just bad. It's mismanagement, and it's taking the customer for granted. And that's what a lot of these companies do now. Let's see. Oh, you saw the BMF, Adam? Yep. And then David Brick says he saw it at Zing near him in Australia. Wow. Jedi Temple Toys. I saw it at Target as well in Washington State. Oh, thank you so much. Appreciate the kind words. Oh, and Tony Robles says the Spirit Proton Packs don't make your wallet cry and totally affordable. Yep, you're right. Lio Convoy is here, listening in intermittently. Hope you're all well. We are, sir. Thank you for checking in. Kay Burns, thank you for the super chat. He says, do you think Haslab is here for the long run, or will failed projects force them to change course eventually? If this keeps up like it did, we've seen 2 Hail Mary plays already. One ended in failure, and the other one ended in some of its, you can argue, success. Although I'm still leaning on the theories of other YouTube channels that I listened to today. Those could be Rancor scalpers that jumped over to the Sky Striker. I am keeping that possibility open because it makes sense and it doesn't sound too far field. But I do think that if the customer keeps maintaining their dignity in mass numbers, they can steer the ship. They can force Hasbro to listen to them. I hope that's what happens ultimately. I really do. Let's see. Jeff Barker says, do you think some of the numbers... Hey, Jeff, good to see you. Do you think some of the numbers were fudged early to get the Sky Striker over the line to not repeat the Rancor spectacle, or am I being too paranoid? You know, part of me thinks it's an infusion of scalpers jumping over, and part of me thinks it's people who are suffering from that, I won't say the acronym, the fear of missing out and jumping in at the last minute, which we know happens. Some of it could be the online retailers trying to get in their orders at the last minute as well that kicked it over the line. Hasbro, they're not transparent. They have extended deadlines before. Some of those backer numbers with some things like Unicron and especially the Razor Crest were really suspect on the last day. So yeah, I get what you're saying, and I don't think it's outside the realm of possibility, but there are a lot of other factors that it could be as well. Yes, Kieran, Dam Busters has some problematic, outdated language, very, very sporadically in the film, but at least it's given a, like a sort of bulletin on the disc, and it's presented honestly as it is, and they're not trying to Disney-fy it or anything, and they do own. We've got to get comfortable about the fact, guys, that just because there were value judgments in play in the past that we don't agree with now, it doesn't mean that the entertainment should all be digitally altered so that we can still comfortably watch it. I think good entertainment makes you uncomfortable. Good entertainment challenges you. Good entertainment challenges your perceptions of things and or reinforces them. But they're not going to be challenged or reinforced unless we allow them to be what they are. And that's the whole thing. I can't throw out Dam Busters with the bathwater simply because it's got outdated stuff in it in places, very scant places compared to other films I've watched. Let's see. Yeah, Peter, this is a hot topic, man. Good to see you. I am nobody's master, Bile. I am nobody's master. Skeletor is our master, and he's in your avatar. Let's see. Jason, the mostly average. Thank you for the super chat. He says, I think Star Wars is hurting. The shine is gone. Disney is killing the golden goose. Rancor is just another symptom of that. Yeah. I can't fault your logic there. How many re-releases of the same 6-inch characters do we keep absorbing? How many different 6-inch lines are going to keep coming out like just white bread? When are they going to innovate with these toy lines and try to create worlds again? Not just in the scale department, but in the variety department. You know me, I'm not a big gimmick guy. Like, I'm not big on squeeze the legs and watch the guy do this and anything that limits my ability to manipulate the toy. I'm not into that. But there are ways that they could stretch themselves with a lot of these, and they're not doing it. I talk about that a little bit in my upcoming video about the Hydra Stomper from Marvel Legends. There was a lot of opportunity there to provide added value into a $53 action figure that is a mecha suit. And did they do it? No. Layup. I mean, It's just another big hunk of plastic that you can display. Is it a nice looking hunk of plastic? Yes, but it pushes the Marvel Legends thing further and further into select what you want, disregard the rest, whatever your personal preferences are. Because otherwise, you're kind of buying the same stuff over and over and over and over and over again, which is lunacy. Embargo, thank you for the super chat. He says, just got here. I feel like a lot of people jumped into backing the Sky Striker, even though they wouldn't have normally because the Rancor failed. Yeah, that's what I've been saying as well. Not me. I've been quoting other YouTube channels with that. That's something that came to my brain through other YouTube channels that I watched today. I believe, no, that was no. I can't say for sure that Thor Skywalker was the one that said that. There were multiple channels that were saying some of that for sure. Thor Skywalker might have said that though. All right, so let's see. Supio, thank you for the super chat. He says, thank you for saying you weren't dogging on people buying. It ain't the greatest, but I've done what I had to do on occasion. Yeah, again, like I'm saying, man, the only people that I've ever dogged on in the Haslab game are the shadow marketers for Haslab, the YouTube channels and websites that tried to get people to get on payment plans, especially back when the sale barge was going on. That was a really, really dirty thing to do to audience members who put their trust in people on social media for those kinds of things. They did it out of a selfish motivation because they wanted the sale barge real bad and they didn't want it to fail. So there they were trying to entice people who really couldn't afford this thing to put themselves into debt just to add another number to the backer thing. It was horrible. And those same groups tried to come after my channel at the time by lying and saying that I was calling all buyers of Haslab projects stupid. And I was like, no. I said that the websites and the YouTube channels that are trying to put people in debt to make this thing happen are being stupid and irresponsible and predatory. I did not say the average guy in the toy aisle was being stupid. Now, I will own up to the fact that a few live streams ago, I said that because somebody asked me about the Proton Pack, and I jokingly said that anybody who buys a Proton Pack knowing it doesn't have a wand guaranteed and knowing that the hose is like a stretch goal is a moron. I did say that. And I'm not going to quite back down from that because it's a Proton Pack that doesn't come with all the stuff. There's no guarantee that you'll be able to get all that stuff after the fact. So you are kind of willfully being foolish. Maybe it'll work out for you with the Proton Pack. I don't know, but I certainly wouldn't. To me, the Proton Pack is everything at once. You buy the whole thing and you put it all together. I mean, I had my own Proton Pack. I custom built it. I'm still upgrading it and doing stuff to it. And I mean, that was 10 years ago. So to see this like $400 part of a pack, I have a different perspective on that. World Made of Cardboard, thank you. I collect vintage Punch-Out books. Some of these run $10 to $200, but these are rare and out of print. I cannot justify new toys for $300. Am I wrong? Of course you're not wrong. You like what you like. You're collecting what you want to collect. I've been buying stuff the last few weeks that aren't toys. And I've had to make, concessions with my budget as well. So like, for example, right here, this, I couldn't pass this up. It's a limited, something I've always wanted. It is the headpiece to the Staff of Ra with original, accurate, vintage, Amber Swarovski. I can't ever pronounce that. Swarovski crystals in the center. It actually has the notch in the bottom that a lot of them don't have to be able to put on the Staff of Ra when I'm able to acquire one of those at some point. And this is the version of the headpiece that I've always wanted. Now, this is not a toy. It's made out of nice metal with several $100s. It's a limited piece. It's limited to just over 200. But I've wanted it my whole life. And I've never found one in a quality that I wanted before. Does that cut into my toy budget? It absolutely does. Do I have any regrets? Hell no. Yes, you're right, Jason Bell. Thank you for the super chat. Mattel Origins definitely wins. Definitely wins. Let's see what we have here. Michael, great to catch a live stream. You're welcome, Travis. On the way home from work in Fort Leavenworth. Great job as always. Thank you so much. Haslab and Hasbro in general are why I don't collect modern. I'll stick with vintage. Smart man. Smart man. Brandon, I think the Star Saber, is the first true Haslab project that made sense from what they claim they want to do with Haslab. I have no beef, truck, whatever you want to call it, with the Star Saber. And I hope that everybody who wants their Star Saber gets it. I really do. I will never support a Haslab project, period. But again, like I said, I'm not, Grindhead Jim, thank you for the super chat. He says, I keep coming back to the point Tony brings up, which is this is what happens when you put non-fans in charge of properties. When you actively deny fans within your organization access, you kill it. Yeah, and that's the corporate mentality. If you're interested in it, they keep you as far away from it as possible. Every single corporate system I've worked for has that policy. It's an unspoken policy, and it's stupid. Thank you. I appreciate that, Mecha Man Blade. Appreciate that a lot. Yeah, I was done after Force Awakens as well, John. I really was. Imvargo, thank you for the super chat. He says, or Crystal Ball hypnotized everyone into buying it. If Crystal Ball can succeed at doing anything, then I guess we got to give him that because Crystal Ball is a loser. Thank you for your guidance, Michael. NECA screwed me out of the SDCC 6-box set and sent me 2 Ming figures instead. Oh, wow. Ouch. Not getting any communication from them, and I've opened a dispute in PayPal. Well, I'm really sorry, Alan. That's horrible, and they shouldn't have done that, and I hope you get your set. I really do. Layout Convoy Reviews, thank you for the super chat. He says, I backed the Striker. I don't have a vintage one, and the wing wheels being together in the way they were always bugged me. Them throwing in a new Disney Cobra Commander pushed me over into it. I'm priced out of vintage for that guy. Understood. Like I said, I'm simply saying, I'm not saying the Sky Striker isn't a nice product. I am saying that for a Haslab, it's unnecessary and overpriced. And I know some people are saying that now the vintage Sky Striker is worth over $200. I guess. I mean, I just think there are too many Sky Strikers out there that were produced in the 80s because that vehicle was produced for 3 years, which was an anomaly for the G.I. Joe Real American Hero pattern. But it was because they knew the flag was coming out the last year, and then they switched over to the Conquest in 86. So it was 83, 84, 85 for the Sky Striker. So that means there's a ton of them out there. But I get what you're saying about the wings. It looks like a really nice product. I hope you're really happy with it. I just can't back Haslab in general. I just can't do it. $11 billion company wants my money for over a year. No, thank you. Ooh, wow. Hot take, Simon. Thank you. Very, very kind words, sir. Very kind. Let's see. I just want to make sure I catch up. All right. So we've got, I think we're caught up. Are we actually caught up on this one? Wow, we are caught up. I did a better job this time than I did on the last surprise stream. I'm going to pat myself on the back. Let's see. Ben S. Hey, Michael, I was working late, jumped in a bit ago. Their arrogance apparently killed the Rancor. They could have easily sold this any number of ways if they really wanted to. You're right. They could have sold this any number of ways they wanted. You are absolutely right, Ben. But they didn't. They wanted to Haslab it, which is so weird. Let's see. I'm going up here a little bit. Ronan, this is not from the RPF, unless this Etsy artisan is also on the RPF. This is from, let me pull out here. He gave a very, very nice certificate of authenticity. This is number 35 of 241 from Dark Matter Props. And I love the fact that this is the version of the prop that is from the Ravenwood Bar and from the map room. The one that's most commonly replicated is the one that's only used in the scene with the old man who translates the hieroglyphs. But I wanted this, bright gold polished one that you see in the Ravenwood Bar and then in the map room on top of the stick. Because, I mean, that's the reveal of this headpiece and then the map room scene. Choice. Let's see. Any comparison to be made between the Master Collector and Haslab? Do you mean Matty Collector? I mean, only in the sense that it was at times dependent on a certain number of backers, I guess. Yeah. I wasn't a fan of Matty Collector either. I bought that, and that's probably why I don't like Haslab a lot, because I bought that Voltron and it was a dog crap product. That Voltron was horrible. So I freely admit, you know. Let's see here. What do we got? Although the Proton Pack has achieved all but one of its stretch goals, so it will come with the hose. It's all very bizarre. Yeah, Simon. Yeah, I mean, I'm glad that when they took the risk, they got their reward on that one. I really am. But it's still unnecessary. I mean, with all the hype around Ghostbusters, there's no reason to do that. Yes, World Made of Cardboard. Thank you. He says, make sure your staff of Raw is the right height. I certainly will, sir. I certainly will. I wish Skeletor was voiced by Michael doing Mark Wahlberg. You know, Monkey Boy, that right there is a tough combo. Because, I mean, if you're doing it like this and then you try and do the Skeletor at the same time, then it kind of starts to sound like the guy from Aladdin that does the parrot, Gilbert Godfrey. It starts to get a little, it's hard to, once you put those two together, you almost go Gilbert Godfrey instantly without intending to. Oh, thank you, Kieran. I appreciate that. You definitely deserve a pat on the back, not just for this live stream, but also for the amazing content you continue to produce. Thank you. You're very welcome. Dragon Reborn. It's disgraceful to think that people have to pay a company like Hasbro for a product in advance and then wait 18 months to receive it anyway. Yeah, guys, I bought the Playmobil Enterprise. It's a $500 item. They said, hey, we're already making this thing. It'll come out in 2 months or 2.5 or whatever it was. And I was like, cool. And then literally 2.5 months later, Entertainment Earth was like, hey, they arrived and we're shipping them. And then it was at my door. There was no 18-month pre-order. That was a $500 item. And they didn't make me crowdfund it either. Hasbro is a joke. It's a joke. It's a bad joke. Let's see. Michael, sorry if this is slightly off topic, but do you know whether Addywan's ESB Revisited is available on DVD? Graham, that's something that you kind of have to get through torrents and online in places. If you go on originaltrilogy.com, the message boards there for ESB Revisited will be able to kind of direct you into how to do it. But that's the only way to get it, is through torrents, because it's not legally allowed to be distributed on DVD. You're legally allowed to have it if you own an official copy of Empire Strikes Back, but it can't just be put out on commercial disc. Joe, thank you for the kind words. Michael, love your collection and your content you provide us. Keep up the hard but fantastic work. I will, sir. I very much will. Hello again, Michael. Happy to see your stream again. Please keep collecting and sharing your wealth of knowledge. Happy holidays. Happy holidays to you as well, Korean Cardboard. Let's see. Gilbert Godfrey could be Hordak. That's funny. Yeah, I was so mad at Super 7 Kenny Potter when they announced the Silverhawks. I was like, great. Of all the companies, you know, because everybody asks me on live streams, what retro vintage line that's never been re-released would you like to see made in new toys? And I was always like, I think Silverhawks needs another shot. And then they're like, well, Super 7's doing it. And I'm like, crap, because that was one of the one companies I really didn't want tackling it. And I was like, what am I going to do if I don't talk about these? Then people are going to say, oh, a company finally comes out with them and you never review them. And I'm like, $55 a figure with no vac metal or shiny, you know, overcoat. And I mean, like, so I made a compromise and I'm like, all right, fine. I said Silver Hawks. So I've only pre-ordered the Hawks. I have not pre-ordered any of the villains. And that's going to be my compromise on that when they finally come out to do a review. Oh, don't worry, Joseph. It'll happen. It'll happen. I'm just trying to get my thoughts together. It was the most fun I've ever had putting a toy together. It was so much fun. Sonny, you have no idea how big that thing is when you get done. And all the lights and sound features, I don't regret spending $1 of that $500. I really don't. It's one of the best toys. It's an adult premium collectible toy, but it's still very much a Playmobil toy. and it's one of the best things I've ever seen. I wish they would do a movie version of it. Let's see what we have here. Yeah, I don't know, Chris, if we're going to get any classified Dreadnoks. I really don't know. And I have seen the Playmobil kit, and I've also seen the Playmobil A-Team van. I would love to have them. I'm just kind of waiting for my bank account to recharge a little bit. Yep. So yeah. Let's see. Hi, Michael. Here's hoping we get more O-Ring figures announced next year, especially Cobra Bats version 1 and version 2 in V1 colors. Hey, I hope for your sake you get what you want. I really do. I'm not going to be buying any of the O-Ring stuff. I'm not really going to be buying any of the Modern Joe stuff from them. I just don't feel the point anymore because it's all going to be difficult to find. They've distributed that so poorly. I don't want to chase it. Life's too short. I don't want to chase it. I just don't. Robert, thank you for the super chat. He says, do you think the lack of Oooooof with the Rancor was killed by a newer Disney PC initiative against Jabba's dancers and the term used to identify them? I know that scuttle is going around. I've heard it, but I haven't seen any documentation. I'm not trying to defend Disney, but what I am saying is this. If it's that big a deal to them, and we know Disney is big about editing their own cartoons and stuff, I'm not going to believe that, and I'm not trying to dog on you for it because I've heard it in other places. I'm not criticizing you at all. It's a very valid thing to think. But I'm not going to believe that until I see Disney digitally erase Oola, Slave Leia, and those dancers from Return of the Jedi. The day they do that on Disney Plus, then I'll believe that. But until I see them do that and really commit to this alleged thing about them, I'm going to be hard pressed to figure out, why are you not okay with action figures of this, but you've got that movie on Disney Plus that apparently you're really ashamed of those elements of? Why? Until they do that, I think there's still hope for those two action figures. Breeze No Ain't, thank you for the super chat. He says, I backed the pack, have the Spangler wand in hand already. Now I'm just waiting on the National Alice frame shortage in a week when this thing ends. Yeah, see, if it doesn't come with the Alice frame already, or a replica of the Alice frame, you've got the wand. A lot of people have backed this pack and don't have the wand yet. And it sells out pretty regularly, and it's hard to get because it's a pulse item. All the pulse items are hard to get. Yes, I'm going to be ending this before Sal's stream starts. I'm probably going to be ending this in the next few minutes, but I appreciate you guys being here for this. Yeah, exactly, Master Son. Go to an Army surplus store and get the real thing. The real thing's on mine. Hut for you. Hey, Michael, I'm a big fan and fellow vintage Star Wars collector. Thank you very much. Just curious, not sure how behind Haslab works, but when someone backed up the Rancor, did they have to pay up front for it? You pay when it's backed and the period is over. So if they made their goal and then if they make the goal and then the time runs out and the goal's made, you get charged for it. And then they sit on your money for 18 months and then they deliver the thing. But they take your money right then. Analog Toys, thank you for the super chat. He says, dream guest for Iconicon 2022, and you can't say Kylie. Well, that's not fair. Danny Minogue. Gotcha. Michael, please favor us with a few bars of the Jedi Rock song. Is the Jedi Rock song the special edition one? I think it is. Yeah, nah. Let's see. You are very welcome, Adam. Thank you for being here. All right. I'm just playing with you. I'd have to think about that. An 80s or 90s icon. Gosh. That's really tough to answer. Wow, you've got me stumped. I don't even know I don't even know what I would pick. I need to work on that. Who would I pick for that? Somebody fun. I'd want somebody fun. Somebody lighthearted and fun. Like, I don't know. Michael, do you have the totes version of the headpiece? Is there any British treats other than... Well, Robert, that's the interesting part about this, is that this right here is technically the totes headpiece, because this is the one he burns his hand on. Although I guess, depending on... Yeah, this is the one he burns his hand on, but then the detail they show is the other one from Imam's house. So they had to have that detail on his burned hand. And the change is that for close-ups, they wanted it to have very distinct letters, like runes or whatever on the side, hieroglyphs, so that when you flip it over. But in doing so, if you've seen that prop, it has very irregular edges. It doesn't really have that nice round circular look, and it doesn't have a very nice polished look. So it's not as visually arresting. So I think this is the one that he picks up and burns, but then the imprint on his hand is the second version. So much going on with the headpiece to the Staff of Ra. It almost makes you want to ask, what exactly is the headpiece to the Staff of Ra? Oh, thank you, Adam. Oh, and also, I love double deckers. By the way, you asked me that. I love double deckers. I do. Adam, big fan. Thank you so much. What project could Haslab do that you would back in a heartbeat? One that's not a Haslab. There is no Haslab project. If it has Haslab on it, you won't see me have an interest at all. It could be, like I said, it could be the Kylie Minogue action figure range, every single version of every album cover and every famous concert she's ever done in action figure form. And they could say, you're going to get 30 different Kylie Minogue 6-inch action figures, you know, with all her different famous, you know, cover looks and all that stuff. And I'd still go, nah. They could do some awesome Indiana Jones thing or get the rights to Tomb Raider, another one of my big loves. And I'd still go, no. They could do a World War II RAF line. I'd say no. I won't do it. I won't do it. My Silverhawks Mirage ship in my studio is now in the case over there. Ooh, good one, Scott. Okay, Scott wins. Tony, that's my answer. Sho Kasugi for Iconicon 2022. Double Deckers, Taco Bell bringing those back. Santara, these are Cadbury candy bars from the UK. I love them. They're just great. They're just great. I also love Tim Tams. I love Jelly Babies. I love Haribo Chamalos. I love British candy. I just do. Joseph Dickerson, thank you for the super chat. He says, by the way, a Rancor action figure 3D model is on Thingiverse for free. Print at any scale. Still haven't opened the Playmobil Enterprise, by the way. Too busy. Yeah, it takes a while. You got to commit some time to building it for sure. All right. That's right, Kieran. I will do anything for love, but I won't do that. Yes, I am still enjoying Iron Brew Venger. Still enjoying it. Very much so. The latest new Hasbro thing I've bought is Captain Carter and the Hydra Stomper, and you'll be seeing that video Thursday. If you're a patron, you'll be seeing it tomorrow. Yes, Final Faction is undeniably one of the best new modern toys because it's $1 a figure. How can you get mad at anything they do wrong? Let's see. Gotta go. Great stream. Thank you, Mecha Man Blade, for being here. I probably have to go too. Guys, there is a stream starting on 2 Cents Toys in a little while. Melinda loves the Beatles. I don't dislike them. I'm just kind of ambivalent toward them. But Melinda loves the Beatles. Guys, I'm going to go so that Sal's stream doesn't get stepped on because I just found out about it in the chat. Shockwave, I'm going to give you the last word in this one because it is everything is 100%. An $11 billion company shouldn't crowdsource anything. End of story. And with that, we are at the end of this stream. Thanks for joining me, everyone. Thanks for being here. Appreciate you guys. Glad we could talk through this a little bit. I'll see you on the next video, which will be coming out Thursday wide on Patreon tomorrow. Catch y'all later. Bye.